Hey guys, welcome back to Globetrotter Gaming. Today we'll be moving on to part 15 of our gameplay of Suzerain. Let's get going. So in the last part, we met with a bunch of foreign advisors over in, I think it was Lockhaven over here, and we went over kind of a bunch of different foreign policy things, and to be honest, for those who watched it, it got a little overwhelming and hard to follow, and it kind of dragged on quite a while, and I think we came up with what I think is a decent foreign policy, but I also got really confused because it started dealing with all these other, things with, let me go to the world map out here. Like, it was dealing with, I think it was, Agnolia, Valgsland, Wayland, and then randomly started mentioning, like, one of these other ones over here, like Rizia or something, and I don't really remember what, like, because we went through all these, and then suddenly Rizia came up, and I don't know, I got really lost on there. But then there's also Pales over here. Either way, like, it kind of dragged on quite a lot. It was pretty hard to follow there, but nonetheless, let's just move on to the next part here. And I accidentally clicked on Whole Sword there, but looks like we have a few different things here. I'm gonna first, let's see, read the report. I'm gonna first do this Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act, just see what it is, because I think it gives us the opportunity to sign or veto a law here. So, the Sordland Tourism Cultural Preservation Act aims to amplify the cultural allure and tourism viability of Boren, Ribery, Lockhaven, Anrika, and Benfey. It's calling a collective push to establish Sordland as a global tourist destination. Okay, I like that. Focuses on the cultural elevation of these cities. I like that too. Underscores the restoration and preservation of key landmarks. And comprehensive renovation of tourist infrastructure. I like that too. And further commits to the safeguarding and development of the Caves of Antera in Ribery and Vineyards of Boren. This, honestly, I mean, I know it's going to take a government budget here, but I do really like kind of overall this there, and I know I kind of just skimmed through it there, or skimmed through it, excuse me, but I think promoting tourism is really going to be a good way to bring in kind of foreign money into the country there, so I'm going to go ahead and sign this. I think overall that's going to be very beneficial, and I look forward to seeing how it goes there. And hopefully it's the right decision. Hopefully it's not, some sort of, test there and something that's going to backfire. But I'm happy with how that went. A few things I want to check before we go to the next thing here, but I just want to see what popped up here for the economy. Okay, so, yeah, it just shows up that's a new policy here. Any situation. Tourism industry booming. Perfect. Yeah, it's going to hopefully start building up the economy there, but I know it just went into effect, so it's probably going to take a little while. I did notice this growth thing here. Just want to see. Oh, you can't click on it, but it looks like it's still projected downwards, which it's been like that the whole time. I feel like every time I've looked up there, so probably a lot we can do for that, because we're still pretty, pretty soon at the beginning of this game. Just what we have over here. Yeah, nothing too much here. Okay, anywho, let's just see what we have next for Whole Sword here. So, the results from the Reform Committee, the report, and these different reports here. Let's go right to the briefing there. I can read the reports later. Alright, so I came a little early to the meeting room before anybody showed up. We had scheduled a meeting to discuss the progress of the Reform Committee regarding the new Constitution. Oh yeah, I forgot that's gonna be a thing there. I remember when I originally went into this, I wanted to make it so my guy kind of had unlimited power. I'm kind of taking that a step back there. Like, I want him to be popular but effective too, and I thought maybe, kind of being like a diplomatic or democratic dictator would be good, but I'm kind of scaling back that approach. I mean, as long as my guy can still get things done, that's really all that matters. So I took a seat in the center chair in the vacant meeting room as I waited for them to show up. The reforms were slowly becoming the most significant expectation of my government. We'd be challenging Seoul's constitution. Most people blame the constitution for the outstanding problems. On the other hand, the reformists had been getting louder about their demands. Meanwhile, Lucian, Petter, and Nia had been leading the committee. I was intrigued to hear their results. So there's a knock on the door. It was Lucian. Good afternoon, sir. And he arrived exactly on the hour mark again. His punctuality can almost be described as obsessive. Good afternoon, Lucian. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to criticize him for being punctual. Took a seat on the table, took out a bunch of documents, and we should begin the meeting as soon as Mrs. Morgna and Mr. Vice President arrive. How does it look? What results? Good. I'm just going to say, how does it look? Well, the situation is quite complicated, but I'm sure we will make it work. We'll go over the details regarding the new constitution in the meeting. And then they arrived. After a short chat, everyone sat down and took out their notes. There was a lot to talk about the future of this process. Let us begin. Mr. President, our committee meetings were really fruitful, and we already started working on the constitutional draft together with the reformists. They demanded a little too much, but we've had success with Friends Richter to create a realistic draft that could potentially go through the Supreme Court. A little? They demanded to rewrite the whole Constitution. Mr. Richter's deputy even suggested removing the term sword from the Constitution completely. I also didn't like their theatrics, but the requests were definitely not outrageous. They were just not realistic. Nonetheless, Mr. Vice President, thanks for your convincing arguments. We seem to have reached a lot of common ground already. If we can fully reach an agreement with the reformists, we will be very strong in the Assembly. Can we reach a 2/3 majority? And is it possible to pass the Supreme Court? So the way I'm piecing together, the way you have to amend the Constitution is like go through the Assembly and then the Supreme Court has to ratify it. Sort of like, you know, with the U.S. it has to go through what, 2/3, you know, I mean, there's like the other ways too, but the common way is what, 2/3 of each house, and then like 3/4 of the states need to ratify it. So this, I think it's 2/3 of the Assembly, and then the Supreme Court needs to do it. So I'm just gonna ask about that, because I want to say the ratification is, or the reform of it is trying to essentially limit the Supreme Court's power. So going through the Supreme Court, I think, is going to be the challenge with it. They are the biggest obstacle. Even if we pass the Assembly, the Chief Justice will do his best to block our amendments. We need at least 6 of the 11 judges to vote for the proposal. But Mr. Hawker has enormous influence. Who's this guy again? Okay, so he's like a guy, Chief Justice, but seems like he's kind of a political enemy, I want to say. We should reach out to the judges in secret. All means are to be considered in order to succeed. They will support a just cause for the country and its future. I'll say all means are considered. I don't want to sound too confident. Nia was taken aback. According to the Constitution, I am a member of the Supreme Court, which means we already have 1 vote. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize she was. 2 of the judges are friends of mine and have similar opinions. Consider them with me. Alright, so we got 3 of the 6 there. So we only have 3 votes out of 11. Who else would be willing to support reforms? There's one of them was, I'm sure they could be bribed, and yeah, I'm still trying to be honest. That's not gonna happen. I think Judge Edmonds can be persuaded, and an extension, Mr. Dalton and Mr. Merton. They weren't really blinded by the socialist ideology. Yes, those 3 don't seem to be working directly with the Chief Justice Hawker. If we can get to Isabel Edmonds, we might get 6 votes needed. Can we reach a 2/3 majority in the Assembly? If you can get Friends Richter to work with you on this, our only problem would be uniting our own party. We'll never be able to get NFP to work with us. So that's the National Front's like the hardcore, yeah, ultra-conservative. They're like the real like hardcore, like pro-Swordish party. Friends Richter is the PFJ party. I honestly don't remember what party we are, but I want to say it's the PFJ party. We need the majority of our 130 seats in the Assembly to vote in favor. With PFJP, yep, that's it. PFJP's full support of 70 votes, we will easily surpass the needed 166. I can't remember exactly what party our guy is. There's so many different, like, you know, factions and parties and whatnot, and there's, like, the Reformists and the Old Wings or something like that. I can't quite remember. But it'll be tough. I think it's USP, the United Sordland Party. I want to say it's that one there, is what our guy is. So it'll be tough to unite the USP with all the divisive wings that it has formed. You must make them follow you loyally. We did it before the elections, we can do it again. We will convince the leads. Albin Clavin and his reformist wing would be supporting you. He already weighed in heavily on the committee meetings. However, the conservatives would be tough to break. The influence of Sol is still living strong in the party. We will eventually remove his influence. How many votes do they have? Do you think they can be persuaded? I'm gonna say how many votes, because I feel like that might be a lost cause there, but we'll ask. They have around 40 seats. There are many unaligned people, and some of your loyalists might decide to show their true faces too. So we need as many conservatives to support us, and there's only one person who's key to take them back. And there's only one person who's key to make them back us. Gloria Tori. She's well respected by the Solus. She'll be our biggest obstacle in the Assembly, and her demands will be extensive. I also have reasons to think she might be in Orso's pocket. She'll be tough to break. What are the demands? Let's go through the draft. I'm gonna see what are the demands. We should run down each of the main demands of the committee and get your input first, Mrs. Morgana. Or Mrs. Morgan can explain them further. The first red line, the new constitution will fix the loopholes regarding the president's absolute veto powers. Even though Mr. Richter put on a whole show about why vetoes should completely be removed, the committee has almost unanimously agreed on fixing the loopholes, just limiting the vetoes. I know they mentioned that before, and I wanted to say no, let's keep the veto there, just because it gives my guy more power, but what do they mean by, like, limited vetoes? Like, some things they can, or, like, is it like, you know, how in the U.S. Constitution, if the president vetoes it, they can overturn the veto? Like, I guess we'll find out. My suggestion is to add a clause detailing the methods the Assembly may override a veto. Guess that answers it. With some sort of a supermajority, one person should never be able to block the rest. I guess that's fair, I get that. I stand in agreement with Mr. Richter, the veto should be removed. The loopholes give the president too much power, they would not be allowed to dictate the negotiations. I think that's fine, because I think, you know, if they can override it, it's whatever. Whatever you decide, it's important to get a balanced picture. We will be making history by changing the 29 Constitution. The second one is about the judiciary. The new Constitution will remove the Supreme Court's right to vote on legislation. This is yet another point that was unanimously agreed on by all parties. Tarkin Sol established this rule to protect the Constitution. We know most of the judges are still his pawns. Constitutional amendments will still be very difficult to accomplish with a reform like this, particularly because we will keep the two-thirds vote system to be able to propose a change. However, the judiciary will not have the final say. This is already what we wanted to do, I can't disagree with that. We need the court to even pass this change, why would they support this? And what good does that do to us? As much as I want to answer this, I think that's a good question to ask there, because it's really limiting theirs. Like, I don't see how they could support it. Most of them won't, but you already talked about my vote and a possible agreement with Isabel, which may change things. Apart from these two critical points, they have other major demands. They want to reform the appointment process, or procedures to the ministers. Mr. Richter clarified the Assembly should have a say in the formation. That is something that a majority in our party also supports. Well, Mr. Richter also talked about abolishing the Member of Honor rights of Tarkin Sol that gives him absolute immunity and makes him a permanent member. I kind of want to agree with that, just because I feel like he shouldn't be like a... Well, that's a controversial one. I doubt that U.S. people would like that. I don't know, if I remember Tarkin Sol as much as he was like the second president there, I feel like having him just have like kind of like that special like unlimited power, despite his history, I don't think we should have that. Immunity of the justices, the impeachment of the president, limiting the power of presidential decrees, all this came up. Yes, reformists expect big reforms, while our faction and the USP are not very keen on pushing changes that are too great. I'd say keeping everything in the middle ground is the safest bet. No need to agitate anyone too much. I disagree. We'll push for comprehensive reforms. Let's keep the changes small, manageable, and they have valid concerns. I'm going to say this one here. As long as we address the main issues, I also agree. Well, regardless of what Mr. Rayne decides, we will need to work together to push this agenda. Now, we have a better picture of your intentions, sir. I will start reaching out to my contacts to make a draft that will work for us. I'll present your input to the committee. In a few months, you will have the draft on your desk to make the final changes. I think this was yet another fruitful meeting, sir. Your service appreciated. If we do this, we will be remembered as heroes. Together, we will democratize Sordland, or thanks for the meeting. I'm just gonna say your service is appreciated. Thank you for the kind words, sir. You can count on us. And yes, Mr. President. I think this is where we'll call it, sir. Have a good day. Alright, so yeah, guess that establishes it. I know that was like one of the first things that was mentioned after my guy got elected, and yeah, sounds like the ball's really rolling on it, so I don't really see, I mean, to be honest, they didn't really establish much of, you know, why they want to do these changes. It kind of threw that right at you there, but guess we're getting going on that, so I'm just going to see quickly what these reports are. So meet with the Chief Justice next. I'm going to do that in the next section, but I'm just going to quickly read the report. So, the National Assembly is preparing the Green Bill with focus on promoting sustainable industry practices, particularly in Groony. Okay, we'll see when that comes up. Oh, there's a bunch of them here. Repeal proposal for the Energy Protection Act. Restricts foreign ownership of security-sensitive energy to 20%. I suppose it's one of the things we'll still, like, see how things develop with it. And Casaro Kibner demands an emergency to be called. Increasing political violence, he stated, without a declaration of emergency, Sordland would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. Yeah, again, I think, important to read those things, but when they get to, our guy's desk, we'll have to make a decision on them. But yeah, otherwise that's going to do it for, I believe this is part 15, so stay tuned for part 16, and thank you guys so much for watching.